Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about Carson Wentz going to the Indianapolis Colts for a second round pick. Third round pick and a conditional second round pick. And the second round pick is actually conditional. It could be a first round pick. And that is if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or he plays 70% of the snaps and the Colts go to the playoffs. So let me take this as a quick moment to remind people that contracts can be whatever. There's a couple times I've had these conversations or different news and people they don't understand contracts, like, at all. This ain't the video games. This ain't 2K. This ain't Madden. It's like, oh, well, you only could do this, or, there's things that are typical, but any contract can say anything. Not anything, but, most things. They can be very creative, so don't ever limit yourself to what you've seen with contracts and say, oh, that's the only thing. No, there's other stuff. So the fact that, we've seen conditional picks sometimes, happens a lot more in the NBA. Usually it goes like backwards, I would say. But sometimes it goes forward as well. You get a third round that's a conditional third round that reverts to a fourth, but you might have some that reverse to a first. So that's the way they did it, and they are doing it based on his snaps, which is interesting because even if the Colts are like, we're all in, Wentz is the starter, due to his history, that he might not, end up being healthy enough to start. So interesting that they went with that. I don't know. Just something to look at. But anyway, Wentz goes to the Colts. And this is a match that a lot of people had set up in their heads and, it worked out. Now, here's the thing. We do this a lot, especially with offseason. People speculate a lot. Same thing with why, like, 9 teams, So somebody's going to be right. And then there's always reasons whenever you make these connections, or it's like, okay, well, it'll happen because of this. So it happens. People are like, duh, told you it was the Colts. It made all the sense in the world. I think a couple things made sense for a number of quarterbacks, but this is the one that worked out. Even with Stafford, the Rams, that feels good, all that. They got rid of Goff. But there was other places Stafford and Goff could have ended up too. I think that would have made sense as well. So, but this is one that I would say was probably high up on people's list just because of Frank Reich. And it seems like they are, I would say, invested in them. Those two picks those are quality picks. I don't care what people say. Oh, it's no first round picks, or it's no, bunch of picks. It's only 2. Those are quality picks either way you flip it. And so you gave up some decent value. You didn't give up nothing like, monster, but you gave up some decent value. So you got to believe in Carson Wentz enough to bring him in. And then with Phillip Rivers leaving, you got a hole. Some people say Brissett should have came back and got a chance. I don't know. We've seen what he looked like, and maybe he's grown, and maybe they'll battle out. We'll know. So we'll see what they do with that. But you had to make a move. This is the off season where a lot of quarterback movement is happening. But this year, honestly, was kind of like the coaching carousel. People I see talking about these quarterbacks like, oh, these are just a bunch of people we already seen what they can do. And I say that about the coaching carousel every year. Now, situation context matters. So I can't act like, especially with players more so than coaches. So I can't act like, okay, we saw who they are. They're going to be who they've been. That's not always true. Sometimes a player is who he is, and sometimes the supporting cast and the context and the situation can elevate them or bring them down. And so while we see in people like Carson Wentz, who you've seen for years in Philly, while we're seeing Stafford, who we've seen for a long time in Detroit, Goff over his years with the Rams, you're like, okay, there, same person moving to a different situation. We could get different dividends. Obviously with the Colts, you got a team that just went to the playoffs, and Played pretty hard against Buffalo. Then you got an offensive line that is very powerful. I would say I don't know. I don't think they're as smash mouth as some people think. People think of the Colts and they think of Derrick Henry. Those are kind of the main like two big running teams, and people are like, oh, they're power smash mouth. Man, honestly, when you watch it, a lot of times they're running zone of both the Titans and the Colts. But the Colts do a lot of power plays and stuff and gap schemes. So either way, they got big guys up front that are pretty strong. I don't know how nimble they are. So not to say that they aren't, but obviously pass blocking is not their first strength for any of those guys, more so than run blocking is, but they're good enough to protect the ball or protect the quarterback. And if you can play action and get the ball out quick, you can protect the ball. So you got a running game with Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack come back. We'll see what they do because Jonathan Taylor, obviously a rookie, did pretty good things. And then you got Nyheim Hines, who's been a good veteran. And T.Y., we'll see what happens with him. One of their deep threats, but a lot of, I think, West Coast type receivers. You got some that could take it downfield, especially if, busted coverage or the zone's open. But for the most part, you got guys that could work underneath and intermediate type routes. So, running the ball, getting a quick step, getting the ball out quick, play action, going for your shots. Obviously, if you do get in trouble, you could do a little more than Phillip Rivers could mobile-wise. But Phillip Rivers showed you that he could get the ball out quick and didn't really have too many pressure issues. So if you are on time and rhythm, I think you could do the same. And then, of course, you got a defense that ranked near the top last year. I don't know. They still, to me, don't have like a ton of top tier talent, but they got really good hard workers. I think it's the type of defense you can win with. I mean, the Bucks, you had top tier with Devin White and Levante David. Everybody else, I think, were hard workers. Shaquille and JPP a little elevated as far as edge rushers, but I don't think they're next tier talent, nobody in the secondary, but they're all really hard workers and disciplined. And I think the Colts had the same thing. So if you could stay healthy, this is the type of team that could absolutely go back to the playoffs and even further when you get a guy like Carson Wentz that has a little more athletic ability, a little more armed than Phillip Rivers. But what we've seen with Carson Wentz is all about the mental. What can the Colts do to get Carson Wentz locked back in and to get his confidence together? Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Carson Wentz is a bust. He's this, he's that. I mean, I really don't believe so. That's how it is with me for most players. But you look at a guy and the skill set he came out of college with, and then you look at a guy, some of the things you've seen him do against NFL talent. Now, being able to do it and being able to do it consistently are two different things. But to say that he's just like, oh, he should retire. I hear some people saying he should retire or he's just broken. I don't know, man. Again, especially with the quarterback position, but football, any sport in general, the mental part is a big part. And I've been saying for like the last 3 years, whenever I do draft stuff, whenever we have these conversations, I could talk about the film. I could talk about the body movement, the body type, the scheme, but I can't talk about the person. That's the part me and you don't get to have in this draft evaluation. So, as much as we think a player is set to do this and that, if they don't have their mental faculties together, and they don't have like the passion and all the willpower, then they might not get to expectations, or they might not be good. And so we'll see what the Colts can do, because I think Carson Wentz is still Carson Wentz coming out of college. You just gotta get him on the same page and figure out, well, hopefully that you can, because you just gave up a decent price for him. So, all right, so that's another quarterback off the board as we continue to see movement. I think they said the Eagles want to bring in a veteran to challenge Jalen Hurts, but I wouldn't say they expect him to be the starter. Honestly, with Jalen Hurts, a lot of potential. I wouldn't say a lot, but good potential. But I see a lot of limitations too. Obviously, any quarterback, if you get better with reading defenses, you can seriously elevate your game. But that takes a little bit of time. So we'll see. Maybe a veteran bridge quarterback will come in and be better fit for them, but the door is more wide open now. So, all right, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.